You want to build the very first gun, the gun, the first machine that turns chemical fire into a punch you can aim centuries before a rifle or a musket exists to compare it to. Before you can hold one, you need four things that don't exist anywhere on this planet yet. An explosive powder, a tube that survives that explosion instead of killing you, a way to spark it on command, and a piece of metal small enough to fly and heavy enough to hurt. You have dirt, trees, and a headache. Start with the explosive, because everything else is scaffolding built around it. Charcoal is easy. You burn wood, starved of air, in a covered pit, so it chars instead of turning to ash. People have been doing this by accident for 10,000 years. Sulfur isn't much harder. If you're near the right geology, yellow crusts around hot springs and volcanic vents, brittle enough to crumble in your hand. The third ingredient is the one that takes actual centuries. Saltpeter, potassium nitrate, a salt that only forms where nitrogen-rich waste rots slowly in the open air. Old stable floors, manure piles, cave dirt soaked for years in bat droppings. 9th century Chinese alchemists find it by accident, not by trying to build a weapon at all. They're mixing sulfur, saltpeter, and honey while hunting for an elixir of immortality. And a surviving text from the era warns, almost as an afterthought, that mixing these particular things together will singe your hands and burn down your house. 600 years later, English officials called saltpetermen have a legal right to dig up cellar floors, stables, and dovecotes on anyone's property because the nitrogen-rich dirt underneath is worth more to the crown than whoever's ox is standing on it. Grind the three together, roughly 3/4 saltpeter, some sulfur, the rest charcoal, and you have gunpowder. Loose and powdered, it's unreliable, it settles, it separates, it burns unevenly. Wet it into a paste, press it, break the dried result into small grains, and it burns fast and consistent instead. This step is called corning, and it's the difference between a weapon and a disappointing puff of smoke. Now you need somewhere to put it. Tang Dynasty soldiers try bamboo first, a spear with a tube of gunpowder lashed near the tip, lit and pointed at an enemy's face. It works in the sense that it throws fire and shrapnel a few feet. It also splits down its length about half the time, because bamboo was built by evolution to bend, not to contain a small bomb. You need a tube that holds its shape while something inside it tries very hard to become gas. Metal, then. You'll fail at this too, first. Bronze casts easily and holds an edge, so it's the obvious first choice for a barrel, and it's also just brittle enough that a slightly too strong batch of powder cracks it open in your hands. Iron, pulled glowing from a bloomery furnace and hammered dense on an anvil, holds. It's harder to shape and it rusts, but it doesn't kill the person holding it, and that turns out to matter more than you expected. Seal one end of the iron tube, pack powder in from the open end. You now have a chamber that holds an explosion and gives it exactly one direction to escape. That's the whole trick. Contain it everywhere except the one place you want it to go, and the force has no choice but to leave in a straight line. You, being the genius you are, figure this out roughly a decade after you nearly lost a hand to bronze. You still need to set it off without standing where the fire is. A burning cord, slow matched with saltpeter so it smolders for hours instead of burning up in seconds, touched to a small hole drilled near the sealed end. That works, but it takes two hands and a free moment nobody has in a fight. 15th century gunsmiths solve it with a curved metal arm called a serpentine, holding the lit cord, released by a simple lever. Pull the lever, the cord drops, the powder catches, one hand free. One motion. Last piece, something to actually throw. Lead melts at a temperature your cooking fire already reaches, pours easily into a two-piece mold, and comes out dense enough to carry real force over real distance. Drop a ball of it down the barrel on top of the powder, and the whole chain, charcoal, sulfur, saltpeter, corning, iron, ignition, lead, finally closes. You have built a gun. Now the terrifying part, you have to hand it to other people. The village headman takes one look at it and does the single most predictable thing a person in charge has ever done, declares that only he owns one, that gun ownership is now a mark of rank, and that anyone caught making their own powder owes him 1/10 of their grain for the privilege of not being reported to himself. He fires it once a week, at nothing, from the roof of his hut, purely so everyone remembers it exists. Someone has to actually mix the powder, and the job falls to the worst hunter in the village, a man named Rel, who has never once hit a boar with a spear, but turns out to have a genuine gift for grinding sulfur to a consistent grain size. He becomes, overnight, the second most important person in the settlement, which nobody who used to outrank him at hunting is thrilled about. Nobody has any idea how to aim one. The recoil surprises everyone the first 50 or so times. Grown adults sitting down hard in the dirt, powder burns on eyebrows that never quite grow back the same. A rough etiquette develops out of pure self-preservation. You announce you're about to fire, loudly, 3 times, before you actually do it, because 2 people have already been hit by accident, and one of them still won't speak to the other. Someone works out that the noise alone is useful, even when nothing is loaded. A hunter fires it into the air near a berry patch, and every animal within earshot bolts, which is either a brilliant way to flush game toward a waiting group, or a spectacularly loud way to guarantee you catch nothing at all, depending entirely on whether anyone remembered to actually wait downhill first. A trader shows up wanting to buy the recipe outright, not the gun, just the powder, and offers an amount of salt that would have been a fair price for the whole village a year earlier. The headman refuses on principle, then spends the next 2 weeks quietly trying to figure out how to sell it to a different trader without the first one finding out, which is roughly how every modern non-disclosure agreement falls apart too. The reload time becomes the village's favorite running joke. 2 men get into an argument over a pig. Both draw, both fire, and then both stand there for the better part of 3 minutes, reloading in dead silence, glaring at each other the entire time, because nobody built anything faster yet. By the time either gun is ready again, they've usually forgotten what the argument was even about. It's Grack who finds the real use for it in the end, and it isn't murder. His wife accuses him of being nowhere near the river the night their neighbor's fence went missing, and Grack's defense, offered to the whole gathered council with enormous confidence, is that everyone in a half-mile radius heard him firing his gun at a fox by the riverbank at exactly that hour, and half the village nods along because they did, and it was extremely loud, and nobody who's heard it once forgets it. The gun becomes, before it becomes anything else, the best alibi anyone in the settlement has ever had. If you liked watching 4 things that don't exist yet get assembled into one very loud alibi, hit subscribe. The next invention starts from an even bigger pile of nothing.